welcome. This is Tampa Home Talk, and we've got an exciting hour planned.
Welcome home.
Welcome home. Of course, here, joined by my sidekicks. You know, anytime you guys are not in the studio, I miss you.
I miss
really
you too.
do, but you're here most of the time.
All the humor is gone, and all the jokes are gone too.
Fun facts.
Well, we don't all have these, expansive homes and Belize and all this stuff.
Here's a teaser for you. My tip of the week might save you thousands of dollars.
Oh, yes, and we're going to talk about that right after we get through the numbers. It's Gasparilla weekend, so of course we have a surprise for you guys, and we have an organization joining us today. We've had Habitat in the house before. We're going to talk about them and some really fun things that are going on in their world. But before we jump into that, let's go to the numbers, shall we?
Yeah.
Excellent. Love numbers.
All right. You want the honors this week, Leo, since it's your favorite?
So new listings are slightly down. We are at the 524. We've been hovering in the 500s now since the beginning of January. Pendings are 1,088, so they're on the rise. I'm a little concerned that our pendings are twice the amount of new listings.
Yeah, that's that whole supply and
so
demand shortage.
what's our absorption rate?
Yeah, what's our absorption rate?
You look at just generally looking at that. What do you think?
I would say it's about 3 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah, literally about 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay, so just for those of you that are new to the show, Leo Kane, Beryl Engineering and Inspection, the absorption rate is if every house on the market sold, how long would it be before there were no houses for sale?
Yeah, good. He sounds like me almost.
And that's 2 weeks. Now,
with the current buyers in the market, how long would it take to sell all the homes for sale? Yeah.
Now, here's what's scary. Normal, ideal condition, right? The Adam Swift economics, we want to see a 6-month absorption rate.
Well, let me add to that. So between 6 and 12 months, historically speaking, has always been considered a balanced market. And so that means, like, if you have a buyer and you seller, to put it in the most lay terms possible, you have a fair shake at negotiations either way, right? Like, the seller wants to make sure the buyer's in the deal, and the buyer wants to make sure the seller's in the deal, and if they're not, they'll go find another house, right?
So can we extrapolate from that people that think that we're going to have a dip, even if we have a double dip, we wouldn't even be in the normal range now, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, we've been hovering, like, at the height of the pandemic, we were at 2 to 3 months, and that we were feeling it. But now we're at less than a month, and it's like if you have garbage, you can put it on the market and sell it at prime dollar.
And we haven't remember Leo, we pretty much we tracked the Tampa market. Remember, we were looking at Orlando there for a while, and they were not doing as well as Tampa. I think their market's now caught up, because I was talking to an agent friend of mine over there, and literally they're getting like 60 some offers on houses, where we're not really quite seeing that for the most part, unless it's way under.
Well, have we priced ourselves out of the?
I don't think
60
so.
plus offers.
No, I don't think so. I just think people are pricing at the upper end, so therefore you're getting less offers. If you price at the lower end of the range of that home, you're going to get 20, 30, 40, 50 offers.
The other thing to consider about Orlando, when we took a look at their market, Disney, Universal, all those hospitality big box stores had basically shut down.
Correct.
The movie theaters are all shut down. And Orlando is more dependent upon tourism.
Absolutely.
For a lot of their housing needs, because like Disney employs, 40,000 people?
Yeah.
I think more than that. Yeah.
So they did. Who knows what it is now?
Yeah, so if they shut down for half a year and they furlough a bunch of people, the housing market there would collapse.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we saw.
Now they're all open again.
Yeah, that's what we saw early COVID, and now we're seeing that demand come back, and people continuing to come to Florida, right? Because Orlando's number 4 in terms of the biggest market. Jacksonville actually came in at 3, which is surprising because they kind of flipped, like Orlando was ahead of them.
Jacksonville is the largest city in the United States by landmass.
By land.
But that's because they incorporated the entire county.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, but
it'd be like incorporating all of Hillsborough and saying that's Tampa, which
we call that Tampa Bay.
Right.
But yeah, anyway, greater Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think it's all called Jacksonville, and this has always confused me about Naples and Collier County, or Tampa and Hillsborough County, or Jacksonville and St. Duval.
Duval.
Yeah. This is St. John's County, and
in the fact that I can be well outside into unincorporated Hillsborough County, and they're still calling it Tampa.
Right. Well, I mean, so I went to Florida State, right? I grew up in Brandon. Nobody outside of Tampa knows what Brandon is. So if they're like, oh, hey, where you from? You're like, Tampa.
They do now after the whole recent political thing.
Yeah, well, Ronnie T, doing what he do.
So anyway, so the housing market. I have a little tip for you guys this week with
a
regards.
Katrina tip of the week. Ooh,
and
so
I'll
Wait, we
tell
have
you.
to wait for the right segment to give the Katrina.
No, I'm going to do it now because we have
have
a lot of guests, and I just want to chime in on this. But I have to tell you that the rates are insane right now, right? So not a licensed person,
good
but
insane or a bad insane?
so they're. I mean, well, it's all relative,
Am I throwing
right?
chocolate on orphans or am I a serial killer?
Well,
insane?
I mean, it's relative. So when I started in the business, rates were north of 12%, and they were refinancing stuff in the 18 and 20s. So people now, if it hits 4%, they're like, oh my gosh, the rates.
The sky is falling.
But I will
Chicken
tell
Little.
you, like the bond market and the stock market typically move opposite of each other. So when stocks are doing great, bonds not so much. And when bonds are doing amazing, stocks not so much. They move opposite. So anyway.
So if the bonds are doing great, the rates are going up. Is that what you're telling me?
If the bonds are doing great, the rates are going down.
But I heard
And
that
the stock
there's
market's
no
not
more
doing well.
bonds after the last movie, so we should be good.
Okay, here we go. Anyway, no, so what I was going to say is that it's weird because right now the stock market and the bond market are both like in the toilet, right, as they like to say. But it's interesting because when the lenders have been pricing stuff out lately, and we've been talking about this, they've got several people they've been trying to lock, and literally there's a cost, even for perfect credit, like in the 700s and 800s, there's a cost to lock the rate, and like in the low 4s is kind of what they're seeing. So obviously every scenario depends, your LTV, your credit score, all that determines what your rate will be, but it's a pretty stressful time right now for lenders because literally they just can't get the rates that they quoted 2, 3, 4 weeks ago.
So this is serial killer kind of crazy then.
Well, no, I think likely if you're anywhere in the 3s, you're lucky, and I think the 4s is going to be the normal, right, as we roll into 2022.
So if you're already in the 3s, don't do that cash out. It's probably not fortuitous to do the cash out.
And who knows,
35.
right? Like we've been talking about when this market, I think it's going to cool at some point. It's
has
not gonna,
to. I mean,
it's not going to crash and burn like 08. It's just not going to do it. There's too much cash in the market. There's too many. Everybody buying is qualified. Literally since that nonsense was weeded out of the market. So it's just not going to happen. But it has to cool. Like things are crazy right now. Builders don't even know when they can get supplies, which is another whole thing that we'll chime in on today in the latter part of the show with one of our guests. So and so the inventory pinch, right? Well, we've been talking about that 2-week absorption rate. People have really been feeling that, and so that's going to be the main highlight of our show today. So this show title is going to be so you want to build, now what, right? And so the goal is to bring you guys a series of a bunch of people that will tie into that. So if you're looking to build, kind of what happens next, because there's a lot of moving parts, right? People don't know what to expect and what happens next, right, Leo?
I have a friend that closed on a lot in August of last year, and they're just now next week going to be doing like the staking for where the foundation's supposed to be.
The process is taking a long time. I'm sure our guests with Habitat can share on that in just a few, but yeah, it's certainly an interesting time out there. So it's a good time to give out our off-air number in case you want some assistance with this, or you want to connect with any of our guests, or you want to check out those rates before they go. Yeah. So if you can lock in, do it. Like if you're looking to build, a really important question you should be asking the lender right now is, when can I lock the rate, and is it a one-time close? That's a really important question. So 813-377-2775. That is our off-air number, so you can call or text us at 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775. So I'm going to introduce our guest right before we roll to the second segment. And we have Carla Graziano, and you are with, is it Grace O'Malley Crew?
The Loyal Crew.
The Loyal Crew of Grace O'Malley. Thank you for making sure I got that right. And joined with you is also Kitty. Help me get this last name right. Is it Bonsek?
You got it.
I did? Okay.
Awesome. Good
Bonsek
job.
with Habitat for Humanity. And we're going to talk all about how your crew has supported Habitat, some of the great things that you were able to do. I think, was it this year? Is it this year or at the end of last year?
Past 2 years.
The past collection of the last 2 years. How that all comes together. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Gasparilla. So this is Tampa Home Talk. And our off-air number is 813-377-2775. Again, 813-377-2775. We'll be back right after this break. And I'll try to get my words straight for the next segment. All right, this is Tampa Home Talk. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome home. This is Tampa Home Talk. I'm Adam Talley with Talley Insurance. And before we dive into Habitat for Humanity and ye mystic crew of Grace O'Malley, I want to give our insurance tip of the week. And this week I want to focus on commercial insurance, because something that we've seen come up a lot, and we always get questions about it, is audits. All right.
Audits.
Audits. Yes.
Okay.
So your insurance.
They're just bills.
They are. Your insurance carrier does reserve the right to audit you. On the GL side, a lot of things are.
Wait a minute. Audit you how?
Well,
They just send us new bills.
basically.
Okay.
So your ratings. So, your ratings. So let's say GL might be on sales, right? But they're not necessarily asking for updated sales every year. So they may audit you to send in documentation to either A, increase it to where it should be, or B, lower it to where, maybe you're paying more. The most important is on workers' comp, because workers' comp is based off of payroll. And if that's not, that almost happens every year.
So if it's not accurate, they're like, show us your payroll or give us more money?
Well, and the problem is if you don't respond to that, they will charge you more money, and they could cancel you, and they could make it more difficult to get insurance from somebody else for workers' comp. So if you're a business owner, you have a workers' comp policy, and it's not tied into a payroll company like Paychex or somebody like that, that's different. You get an audit, respond to it, answer it, because
Leo responded like he actually had to write a check.
no, it happens. It does.
Yeah.
It does. But
Got it.
hey, you know what? If your payroll increased, your business increased, it's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
It's just the cost of doing business. So,
All right, so let's roll on over to our guest. So let's talk a little bit about Gasparilla. Can we start there and just talk about the history of Gasparilla, since we have a couple parades, right? Or one parade this weekend. You ladies know more about that than I do.
Yeah, we had the children's
So
parade.
let's go ahead and dive in. Go ahead.
Children's parade last Saturday, and then the Gasparilla Day Parade is tomorrow on Bayshore, and then Crew of Santiago have a night parade in Ybor on February 12th. So that's like kind of goes.
We were
to
talking
Gasparilla
about that this
season.
morning, like us Tampanians that were like born and raised here in the area. Remember when there was like one parade, and
Right.
you
Right.
were saying you grew up in Pasco,
And it was on a Monday.
Yeah, you guys weren't off, but the Tampa
Right.
people were. So
Yeah.
you guys would just like scoot out and
We
go
all
to the
skipped school
yeah.
to go to Gasparilla. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So really fun time. Be safe. There's a lot of crazy drinking people there.
Yes, yes.
Especially, it's kind of a good thing, right? That they separated it into a kids parade.
it's almost 120 years old. Did you know that?
Yeah, it's old. It's been a
1904.
long
1904.
time. Yeah. So let's just talk about, first of all, I want to just mention you guys, and I invited you on the show because your crew, crew of Grace O'Malley, has actually supported Habitat for Humanity.
Yes.
You guys worked together for a couple of years to raise money, and you were able to raise over $39,000
in
for
2
your
years.
organization,
Yes,
which is
yes.
just amazing. Like I have to give you a hats off for that, to start.
During a pandemic.
Yes,
so-
during a pandemic.
Pretty impressive.
So let's talk about that, because I would love to know, like, what are some of the things you guys do? How did you pick Habitat to actually be the one that you would do? And then what is Habitat going to do with that? So
The crew Grace O'Malley has an Angel of Grace, and our Angel of Grace submits an application for their charity, and then they're presented to the crew in March. So they start fundraising in March. Our crew year starts March 1st. So they start fundraising, and Kitty is our Angel of Grace during my reign as O'Malley 28.
Your reign, I love that.
Yes, during the reign.
And
O'Malley 28.
how did you choose which one you're going to? I know that you said they kind of vote on it, right? Or they choose.
Each year's previous Angel of Grace heads the committee that chooses the Angel of Grace for the
very
next
nice.
year.
So you'll
there's
be head
yes.
next year.
Exactly.
To choose
So
somebody
Yes.
else.
for 2 years, you guys raised money, right, for
Right.
Habitat? What
Right.
made you
Yes.
pick Habitat to begin with?
Well, I came to the crew with Habitat in my back pocket.
Got it.
I volunteered for them for 11 years, and then I started working for them in the office.
So what did you do when you volunteered for them?
Oh my God. Well, I spent a little bit of time on the job site. I spent a couple of trips out of the country, and then they had a need in the office for someone with computer skills. I said, oh, I can do that.
I'll do it.
So I got to interact with almost every department in the office. So I got to know a little bit about everything.
So what did you guys do to raise $39,000 in a pandemic? I know it took 2 years.
Lots
but
of
what did you do?
different things.
Well, we have some traditional things that we do, and one of our biggest events happens every year, and it's an auction that we have in November, and it's a large raiser for us, and we look for our members and community partners to offer items that we can raffle off.
What kind of stuff do you guys auction?
Oh my God! This year, one of our big things was we had a Christmas tree with decorations that somebody had donated. The members donated. We actually offered up a trip.
Golf trips.
Yep, golf trips, and we offered up a trip to Italy. The group is going to Italy next June, May, June, and those were big. And then we get all kinds of things that people create, ceramic items and gift items. And
What's the most expensive things you guys have ever auctioned off that you can remember?
I'm not sure. I know the tree brought in
big
about
deal.
$750.
That's
and
pretty
it
good.
It was a theme. It was a whole theme tree for the Seize the Day, which is my slogan for the year, the Seize the Day. So,
Nice.
it
Well, you
was all
guys
around
worked hard
seahorses.
to
Yeah.
raise $39,000.
Yes.
You really did.
Yeah, we do community events. We did a golf, putt-putt golf over at Big Storm
Brewing.
over at Fargo. We
cool.
did that. We
Fun.
do.
Yeah.
we support their
kinds of
annual golf outings, so we handle the beverage tent and get lots of tips. It's kind of
Yeah.
fun. So it's so easy just to sign up for a Habitat and a birthday on Facebook.
Tell us about the work and
Yeah.
the $39,000 donation. What will that actually do for Habitat? How far does that go?
Well, the last numbers that I saw, it is because of, as we know, rising costs, usually covers at least 30 to 40% of the cost of the build of the home.
Yeah.
So we're almost there. Well,
You guys work a lot with
sponsorships,
volunteers, so
yes.
most of the funds go to actual supplies, right?
Yes, I do. And there are items that we sub out to contractors just for safety, quantity, quality, because not everybody's a great tiler. Not
Yes.
everybody is a great roofer. So there are.
Not this guy.
Sheetrocker. Okay, yeah. So in his case,
Great
we say you're not
supervisor.
here. Yeah, you can stay there, but
No,
we'll have
he's good.
somebody,
I'm bad.
we'll have somebody else
You want
do the
his
work.
help.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we actually built a house last year. We
We
had
did.
the house that Grace built.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
and we donated it to a single mom and her daughter, and our ladies actually were able to go out even during the pandemic. They were able to go out and work on the work of the
And
home
I
site.
don't think it's been mentioned yet, but you guys are an all-female crew, correct?
350 all field.
and
One of the,
how many-
the
I was about to
largest.
say,
in town.
how many other female crews are there?
There are quite a few female crews,
Okay.
but none of them are as large as us.
Oh,
We're
okay.
350.
Fair enough.
We started in 1992.
Okay,
Wow.
so probably the
And
oldest
grown.
one as well. Then.
Yeah, we were the first female crew in
Very good.
Gasparilla.
Pioneers.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes. It was started by 14 founders in 1992.
That was something, I'm sure. Actually, I started doing this whole research. We'll table it for another time, but it was like the history of when women were allowed to do things, including vote. So we'll talk about that another day. But
Before 1992, they were allowed to.
no, but I'm literally, it's not that far off. Like when you think about the span of time, it's really not that far.
Right, and we
back.
were talking about Gasparilla being old, and one of our founders was a little girl and used to go to Gasparilla with her dad, and she told him one day she wanted to be a pirate, and he told her there was no way because only men are pirates.
Yeah,
And
so that, like,
and
think
now,
about that.
and now we are pirates.
Yeah, I mean, you're not that old, literally, and that you're
Right.
talking about your crew that was
Right.
started, but that's a prime example.
Hey, 30-year anniversary. Congrats,
absolutely.
guys.
And Grace O'Malley is a real pirate. She was a real pirate in Ireland, and she grew up in the 1500s.
Wow.
So, yeah, so she
got learned something new.
So talk about the. I would like to go back just to the house that Grace built. So being that you guys. Were you involved in all of it, all the funding, or most of it, and did you guys pick the person that the house was going to be built for?
No, generally, well, in a way, we picked her because they suggested who we could use and whose house and who would be a great recipient. We had a mother who had a daughter that had severe medical needs as a child and still does. So it was kind of great to have her have a house and have the medical equipment that she needed. So we didn't necessarily pick her, but we had an opportunity to choose
Put her in
somebody
the
else.
mix,
Yeah. So
It's an organization that's very close to my heart because I think home ownership really helps build wealth, and it's the fundamental of a very strong childhood for kids.
strong family, absolutely. And it's really just helped in so many families over and over. We have stories where their families have just zoomed and done well. The kids are great in school. Everything improves in their lives.
Yeah, Habitat is a fantastic organization, and if you haven't checked them out before, highly recommend that you get involved with them or see how you can help, and at least see what they're all about and what you can do to help. So even if it show up for one of the auction events or donate some items,
Absolutely.
I know it would all be appreciated. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you get a chance and you're at Gasparilla and you see the crew of Grace O'Malley,
We're number 53, and we have 3 floats.
oh, there you go. So make sure you wave and look for Carla. Where will you be? You said you'll be on the float?
I'll be on the top of the first float. It's called Rock Fleet.
So you'll be in the, is there
I'll
a
be on
chair?
it's a turret, and I'll be
Okay.
standing at the top of the turret.
All right, wave to Carla and say, we heard you on Tampa Home Talk.
Absolutely.
All right.
Bring your Grace O'Malley signs. You'll get lots of beads.
There you go. All right, this is Tampa Home Talk. We're about ready to roll to a quick break. Just to give out our off-air number, 813-377-2775. We'll be right back with Danielle Stevens.
Welcome home. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. This is Leo Kane with your tip of the week.
Yes, it'll be right on time, too.
This is very timely, very timely. So I can't remember the last time that Tampa had a soft freeze. Can you?
70s maybe?
No. It was like 3 years ago.
What?
I guess I can remember.
Well, no, I was thinking snow, actually.
So a soft freeze is when the temperatures drop below 32 degrees for more than 5 hours. And we're going to have that sometime on Saturday.
Is that like Friday to Saturday or
Saturday to Sunday? I don't
Saturday,
know.
okay.
That's where I get confused.
It gets I think it was supposed to be like closer to Sunday, and I feel like it's moved up a little.
Well, it's still going to be on Sunday because Sunday we're still going to be in the low 30s. But here's what you need to do. And this deals with your landscaping. And I'm going to tell you to do a couple of things that don't sound correct. But in order to keep your plants alive during a freeze, you got to water them. What?
Yeah.
So basically, the way trees work and plants work is when you water them, they bush up a little bit and they become insulated. So by watering them, and you want to water them probably midday today when it's hottest right now. So normally you don't water your plants when it's hot because all the water evaporates. Well, it's cold right now. So you want to water your plants and your trees and your bushes. You want to water everything today sometime between 2 and 3 o'clock. If you water everything today between 2 and 3 o'clock, and then you take your trees and you can put tarps on them, you can wrap their trunks in blankets, things of that nature. You also want to do that during the late part of the day. You want to wrap them because you want to trap the latent heat in the air on these trees. Any bushes or potted plants you have, you should consider moving those indoors.
Doesn't the water kind of freeze the heat like inside the plant?
Insulates.
Yeah.
So you want to do all this because in a soft freeze, when the temperatures get to about 28 to 30 degrees for more than 5 hours, a lot of the plants here in Tampa can die. And the reason why I remember the last one of these was 3 years ago is half of my mango tree died.
Really?
All the foliage has died, and then your leaves turn half brown and they're half green. At that point, you have to cut all those leaves off because it's just dead growth at that point. However, I'm trying to help you not get to that point.
Well, a lot of our trees and our plants here are native to Florida, and they're not used to climates
No, you
like that.
have to water them. So between 2 and 3 o'clock today, when I'm at work, then do it as soon as you get home, before you take the dogs out, before you feed your koi in the koi pond, before you let your chickens roam around the backyard. Whose house are we talking about?
In Ybor City.
Yeah, before you get home to Ybor City. Anyway, no, but seriously, water your plants. If you've got some tarps, put them over your trees. You want to protect these trees from this freeze because this freeze is a plant killer.
It's no joke. So is your mango tree okay? Did it live?
It lives. It's
Okay.
big and bushier than ever, and
Yay.
it's taller than ever, so I'm not going to be able to tarp the tree this time, but I am going to water all of my plants when I get home. I'm going to do it today, and I'm going to do it tomorrow, and that should take care of the freeze. Now, that is the way you can save your plants because, as we all know, landscaping isn't cheap.
Right. And the rising cost of everything. I would definitely do that.
Yeah, so that is your Leo Kane Beryl Project Engineering tip out a week.
And stay warm if you're going to Gasparilla. Bundle up. It's going to be cold.
My tip of the week involves your home, not your people.
I know. I'm just saying. We had Gasparilla in the house, so, you know.
Yeah, everyone will be drinking, and
Yes.
they'll have that false sense
They'll have
of
that
warmth.
insulation inside.
Yeah. There is a Gasparilla drinking game out there where if you hear someone complain on Gasparilla who's barely wearing any clothing complain it's cold, you take a drink.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
I don't plan to.
That will be fun.
I won't remember anything. I'll be drunk in the first 10 minutes.
All right, so we're going to roll on to our guest, and this is going to be the first part of a series that we're going to put together. And so the title of this particular show is So You Want to Build a Home, Now What? Right? Because there's all these little nuances that go into this, and there's the whole like the chicken or the egg. What do you look first? Do you look for the land first? Do you look for the builder first, or do you find an architect? And so this layers in with the first part of the show where we were talking about there's a 2-week absorption rate. There's not a lot of stuff out there to pick from, and I think the challenge is with the prices, people are like, wow, if I'm going to spend this price and still have to modify the home significantly, I think I would rather build exactly what I want, right? Which has also caused the land prices to go up quite a bit, and it's been interesting. So I would love to introduce to you our guest of the hour, and it's going to be Danielle Stevens with Bellavita Designs.
Yes, ma'am.
And they do a great job over there in terms, I'm going to let her tell you all about it. And I'll add a little tidbit along the way, but pretty much this is going to be you. And so when I think about it, like what should you do? And even like the most seasoned people, right? Like one of our agents that's newer, she's flipped a ton of properties and she's buying something brand new, spec home from a builder. She's like, I didn't even know I needed a realtor. And now that I'm involved in this, I know I need a realtor because they would have helped me with all this stuff that's been wrong. And so that's where we come in, because I don't think it's most of the time when you've decided that you want to build, there's a lot of things happening at once. Like,
absolutely.
We're looking for land. We're looking for probably the builder. We might be trying to identify who they are, and then the plan. So let's talk about that, because and you can find plans online. You can, right?
But you can't use them in Florida.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have to be redone.
You won't have Florida building code plans.
That's right.
So that was one of my questions that I had on the outline for today, and that's perfect. So can I just use my plans online? And the answer to that is
no. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of people don't know that, and so they purchase their plans to only then find out later that they can't use them. And so if you go to a website that offers plans for sale, you could spend $2,500 even just on a set of plans that are literally not usable. So you've just thrown that money in the garbage, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that's the key where like working with someone can really help guide you through this process and explain to you everything you need to know.
Yes.
And even if you were to design something perfect, it might not even fit on the lot, right?
That's also very important, right? So that chicken or the egg conversation is, do I find the land? Do I find the builder? Do I find the architect?
I was thinking about this before the show, and I know you'll chime in on this, and you guys helped us actually recently design plans. But when I was thinking about this, I think this is where we dive in with the customer is so important, because we're like, if I was the customer, right, and I was the agent helping them, I would have dove in, and what I would have found was that the area was a non-negotiable, right?
Sure.
The area in which I was going to buy would have been the non-negotiable. And so that's really what you have to know. Like, what are the most important things? And so for us, it was about finding the lot, and then you have to build the house to fit on the lot.
Then you also have to make sure that you have the money to do what you want to do too, right?
There's that.
That's maybe even the first step is, have you talked to somebody, have you talked to a bank about borrowing the money to do this? And
right.
How do you want to do it? Do you want to couple in the land and the build and pay the mortgage when it's all done? Because that's a possibility, as I'm sure you're aware, right?
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because
Sure.
I don't think a lot of people realize you can actually contract with a builder and the land at the same time and get a loan for all of it.
Yes.
Or if you have the cash and you want to buy the land, that can later serve as your down payment for the loan.
That's right. And it's a lot easier if you buy the land ahead of time, if you have the cash. When you want to do all of those things coupled together for a construction to perm loan, the time starts ticking very quickly, because it's a 45-day close, right? Just like if you're buying a home. So you have to have someone who can move at the speed of light to get your plans designed, so that then the builder can give a price so that you know exactly what it is you're all in for, land plus build.
So let's talk about that, because I had you on Tampa Home Talk a long time ago. I think you were at the station with us, weren't you?
No, this is my first time.
Oh, I thought we had you on some time ago.
No.
Okay, So we'll talk. Leo's like, no, I didn't. I was thinking like pre-Leo I had you on. But anyway, so basically we connected because, one of the builders, I had actually sold a land and a build, helped the client identify the builder and all this stuff. And now they're building, then our needs change. And we're like, okay, we might want to consider a move and build. So we started looking, and I was already familiar with this. So I'm like, yeah, the land and the area works. The challenge is I know a lot of that property is not buildable, right?
Sure.
Or different sections of it are buildable. I already knew that from diving into it. So
Most people don't know that, right? That's the trick, is you can buy land. We actually had this happen, unfortunately, to a lady. She bought some land down in Riverview on the Alafaya, and she was going to move there with her disabled mother, and no one told her that she had to have an elevated home because it was in a flood zone. Those are things that you should be talking about before the land is even... You're putting an offer on the land, or someone who bought a piece of land.
In your due diligence period.
Yes, due diligence is very important.
So that's what happened, and that's how we got connected, because I was originally thought, well, they use this builder. I like him. I know he's might be a little bit more, but I know he builds a good home.
Sure.
So we were waiting, on his architect, and meanwhile, we're under time constraints on the contract, and that's where I come in, as we understand that.
Sure.
And so if we can't build exactly what we want, or have a general idea that we can build exactly what we want in that time frame on that land, you could be wasting a lot of money. I mean, how much was that lot in the Alafaya? Do you know roughly?
It was a small lot. She was going to have a really small, like 1,200 square foot house.
Yeah.
So it was like a quarter of an acre. It was pretty small, but it was good money, right? Because it's on the water.
The land prices are significant now.
Right. This was probably 3 or 4 years ago, so it wasn't quite as much as now, but she still had a piece of land she couldn't do anything with. Now she had to sell it and start over, which stinks. It doesn't matter how big your land, it doesn't mean you can build on it. We had a prospect client come in literally earlier this week, a 5-acre piece of land in Seminole, which is unheard of, right?
Right.
And it's got a 5,000 square foot footprint where you can build. 5,000 square feet out of 5 acres.
So what can you build on that?
Well, you can build a house in 5,000 square feet for sure.
But you're
It's going to
building
have it's up. That land is almost in the water. It's at 3 feet elevation. The base flood elevation there is 11 feet. So they're going to be up pretty tall. But they're going to have like a mile-long driveway, right? Because it's a 5-acre piece of land, but there's wetlands. There's
challenges with that.
Big challenges. You have to have a structural engineer, obviously involved civil engineer understanding.
That's where Leo comes in.
That's right. That's awesome.
So there's all those little nuances, and
there's so many details.
Myself as a real estate agent, there's a lot of stuff that I don't know, but we've got all the right pros to make sure we have all the pieces we need before you would spend your money.
That's right. What's really important when you're shopping for someone to help you plan out the design for your home is, are they going to make sure all of those checks and balances are in place? Are they getting the structural engineer involved, the civil engineer, whatever's going to be required at the county? What's happening with your land? Did you do your due diligence? Can you build what you want? If you don't want a 2-story house, but you have to build up above the base flood elevation, did you account for that? I mean, there's so many pieces. It's not just...
I got a piece of land.
I got a piece of land. Let's go. Yeah. That's right. And unfortunately,
the municipalities can add some more layers too. Like if you're in the city versus the county.
Oh yes, overlay districts like Seminole Heights. Excuse me, can be very extra. They have some interesting overlay districts over there.
I'm sure you've dealt with that in Ybor City, right? Yeah.
Especially Ybor City.
Yes.
Especially Ybor City. Yeah, so I think that's the thing. Like, you have all these moving parts that are going on, and I think it's very helpful to start with somebody like you, because everybody has a general idea of at least what they need in the house and how it should be laid out. So
that's the fun part, right? When we get there, you have the land, you have the financing, you know your style, you know the size, all those good things. Then that's the fun part. We got to get all that other stuff out of the way first.
Yeah, and all this stuff is happening really at once. So
yes.
This is Tampa Home Talk, and today's show is all about, so you want to build a home, now what? And we're going to talk about some more of those nuances when we come back with Danielle Stevens right after the break. Our off-air number is 813-377-2775. If you're considering this, and I'm going to tell you why you need to hire them when we come back in the next segment, 813-377-2775. This is Tampa Home Talk, and we'll be right back with Danielle Stevens of Bellavita Home Design. Back in a moment. Welcome home. This is Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell, joined by Mr. Leo. Adam's already scooted out, but that's okay. We're still here in the house with Danielle Stevens, and we're going to talk all about the process. So you want to build a home, now what? So we talked about all the craziness that you're not even going to know. You don't know until you get in it. But let's talk about the fun parts. Let's talk about what you guys do to just make this whole client experience awesome, because a lot of architects don't do this.
No, they don't. And honestly, the fun part when you get to it is so great, because in my line of work, I unfortunately have to be a heartbreaker sometimes in those first conversations. I'm sorry you can't build there. I'm sorry that's not possible. I'm sorry this land isn't cutting it. I'm sorry it's a little bit more expensive than you thought it would be to build.
That's probably the standard one.
That's maybe the first one.
Now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and HGTV, which is an amazing network to see all these things it can do in your house. It unfortunately sometimes can set an unrealistic standard for what things cost and how quickly they can be done.
Well, and let's face it, like once you start, in a lot of cases, people are, they may be building their dream home. Mm-hmm. So once you start adding in everything you want, it's not impossible for that thing to get monstrous.
No,
right?
absolutely
just
not.
Way out of reach.
Way out of reach. But the great thing is we actually ask our clients to share with us up front what their construction budget is, because we want to design you a house you can build. Right? I can't think of any greater tragedy than us designing you a house and then you go to build it and you can't. That sounds terrible. I'm not interested in ever doing that.
So we started this all together. I told your husband, I'm like, we're going to have to scale this back. This is way too big. We can fix this.
Yes, but we can fix it, right? And we can budget engineer things. We can do things like, let's pick some standard size cabinets for your kitchen opposed to these custom and save you $10,000 in cabinets, right? Yes. Like these things can shave some money off. And
where's the biggest places people can save money when they're building?
The kitchen and the cabinets, the flooring. The flooring is huge and something that actually kind of flies under the radar. You can pick, an LVP that can cost you $5 a square foot, or you can go much more luxury and it can be $20 a square foot. When you're fitting that over 4,000 square feet, that's an unbelievable amount of money and difference. So flooring is a big one. Roof lines can also be very tricky, right? So the trickier your roof lines are, the more expensive your truss package is. There's different ways that we can budget engineer.
That one all too well.
Boring boxes. I can't stress this enough. You want a boring 2-story box. You don't want flying buttresses, and you don't want waterfalls coming off your roof onto a second section.
That's
We
right.
didn't even talk about the land prep either.
Oh,
in the first
yes.
segment, like in terms of doing due diligence on the land.
Absolutely.
Like boring samples and percolation tests.
That's right.
And
Getting
all that fun stuff.
geotechnical reports and those types of engineers involved. And do you have to pack it? Do you have to grade it? I mean, there's all kinds of things that, again, you just don't know that you don't even know those things.
Right.
But then we get to the fun part, right? All of that is the hard part. We get past that because we design 75 houses a year that then go on to get built. So it's not a tragedy for anyone, not for everyone, when they are beginning those conversations. It happens sometimes. But the fun part.
How long are those plans good for? So if you build it, or if you put it all together now, I mean, obviously building codes change all the time, right? Leo, you talk about
every other
this.
year.
Yeah, every 2 years they change, but the stamp that is put on them is good for 6 months with the county. So it's not that necessarily that they're not good, but you may have to have them restamped by an engineer.
Got it.
So to be restamped. But then they're good again, right? As long as
because they're updating them, right, to any current plans or changes and
That's
that sort
right.
of stuff. Okay.
Yep.
So one of the cool things about you guys, and I think that this was missing for one of our customers, so I'm glad to have you guys as a resource and as a partner here on Tampa Home Talk, so we can refer you guys out because I think when most people, like I would say 8 out of 10 people, when they look at a set of plans or like drawing on a single sheet of paper.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard for them to visualize what that's going to look like when it's done.
Of course. I mean, we don't live in a 2-dimensional world, right? Seeing is believing, I tell a lot of people. So we're doing everything in 3D up front. It just, not only is it fun, and you can see everything, and we don't leave any stone unturned, we also, with each of our clients, offer unlimited revisions. So let's put it together how you think this is going to look. All the vision you have in your brain, we put it in front of you. And you can attest to this. You see, and it's like, that isn't quite what I thought it would look like, or I'm not sure how much I like that, or where am I going to put my couch, where am I going to hang my TV, where am I going to put my purse when I walk in every day?
I'm going to put my double-sized fridge.
Well, and so
where my dog's going to eat.
This is the important part that I tell people too. Like when you're thinking about this, think about how you use your home and your space now.
Of course.
What's your favorite part of it and what's missing?
That's
so those
right.
are 2 elements you probably should make sure you add in.
And what do you need to plan for or not plan for, right? So do you host Thanksgiving dinner, or do you never do that because you travel out of state for that? Those are, it's just 1 or 2 times a year you have 20 people there, but Where are they going to sit? Is that important or is it not?
How do you live in your home? Do you
That's
have
right.
older kids?
Older
right?
kids, are they about ready to leave, or are your kids really little and they're going to grow up here?
Positive beanbag chairs.
Yeah, well, there's that. So let's talk about how long this whole process takes, because I think, when people get frustrated in this market that they can't find what they want, and they're like, well, I'll just go build, right? And they think by going into some of the spec homes that they can build a home in 6 or 8 or maybe 12 months if they're thinking they're being realistic.
I mean, if you're starting to break ground, that can be realistic, right?
No.
Depending on the
let's
size,
back up
but
and
you
talk
got to
about-
back it up.
Yeah, let's talk about where we are today in terms of I got to find a piece of land
Sure.
and choose a builder
Yes.
and get the design all nailed and get a loan.
And get a permit.
And let's
At
not,
12 weeks in
once
for
you get
that.
all the other stuff done, then you get a permit.
That's right. So in a best case scenario, from the day you start designing with a firm like mine, because we're doing things a little bit differently in 3D, it moves a little faster, we can get you started within 2 weeks of signing on with us. There are other local architecture firms and draftsmen that we know very well that are 3 to 4 months out from starting any new projects.
Wow.
We're about 2 weeks. And that's
nice.
just because we're working in a different environment. Lots of other companies that do similar to what we do are using AutoCAD, which is a robust and amazing system. Most people are well versed in AutoCAD, but it's a little slower. So what someone can do in AutoCAD in 100 hours, we can do in 25. So
Okay.
we're just moving faster.
That's great.
So design, we work at our client's pace, right? So the more information you give us up front, the more we know what you're looking for, we can show you, and then we're going to refine it unlimited times. And that could be 2, and that could be 10, and that could be 30, right? Depends on how granular we're going to get. But part of getting to the design you love is seeing all the things that you don't like. So let's show those too.
Can you talk about the difference between why you should hire a full-blown architectural firm like yourself, like
Sure.
Bellavita, and what's the difference between you and just say hiring a draftsman?
So draftsmen, and I'm not suggesting that draftsmen are extremely qualified to design you a home. Absolutely, but they're doing things a little bit differently. They're not versed in the creative elements of residential design. They're drawing boxes, right? They're putting together what you need to get your permit. They're not taking into account your lifestyle. They're not taking into account your land, or maybe even your flood zone or what's possible. You
Last thing you
certainly
want to
can't
do
see
is
it.
build this place and have it not be exactly what you want.
Exactly. And then what happens is you get change order to death during construction, which can cause you sometimes $50,000 to $75,000 in change orders.
All right, there is a lot of stuff you need to know, and if you are considering a building, I would love to get you connected with Danielle and her team over there. Jeremy will do a great job on the architectural part. You can call or text us at 813-377-2775. We're going to build this into a series and definitely have you back. 813-377-2775. We'll be back next week. Have fun this weekend. Welcome home.
Love.